Hello, my name is Frank McQuarrie or Frank Mack. I'm a fourth-year PhD candidate. I enjoy doing these videos each year because you can see my hairline marching back up my head. I'm under Dr. Catherine Edwards at Skidaway and Dr. Brock Woodson in the engineering department. I'm passionate about coastal oceanography, gliders, robots, outdoor education outreach, and card games. I graduated from Rutgers way back when, and I went to work on Catalina Island Marine Institute. And so that was where I got really into outreach. I'd been a camp counselor, but I hadn't taught much science. And this was where I got to be, out in the world. It was fantastic. I was half lifeguarding, snorkeling, while also teaching about the water around us. I cannot confirm nor deny the existence of any Catalina wine mixers. I moved from there to work at Cristadora, which is it's bridging the gap between formal and informal. We're bringing New York City kids up to the mountains in the Berkshires, up in Massachusetts, and then we'd invade their schools in the winter. And so these are kids that might not otherwise feel a fox pelt or learn about certain water cycle and do experiments. It was fun. I also took 2 deployments to Palmer Station, Antarctica. And so this is where I really fell in love with those gliders. That's actually my butt featured in the HBO Vice episode. They came down and filmed us deploying one of our gliders. And it was fascinating to be able to study water so far away. We threw it in the water and then Rutgers controlled it from thousands of miles back home. And that was very impressive to me. We studied primary productivity. And so as that glacier melted, it changed the mixed layer depth where all the productivity is happening. We were curious how it was changing over long periods of time. So I've mentioned them before, the AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicles, gliders. They're remotely operated, which is good because we're lazy. We don't want to be swimming out there. They're energy efficient, good because we're lazy. We only need to deploy them and retrieve them, once every few months we throw them out there. And they're mobile, which is important to me because I'm studying how sound travels in the ocean. And so if you've ever swam in a lake or the ocean, your feet might feel colder than the rest of you. That's because a thermocline might form. The ocean or water might layer itself. And that layering, it meets somewhere, that gradient, that might bounce sound off it. It might refract away. And so if we tag a fish, that tag, that ping that travels through the water might not travel up to the surface, to a buoy, to a boat, whatever we have it. Instead, we have our glider. And so that can go above and below some of the gradients that form in the water. That's important to us. I do a lot of my work at Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Shallow coastal reefs are very noisy environments. There's a lot of snapping shrimp. There's a lot of fish. There's boat traffic. And so that's frustrating for someone who wants clear paths for sounds to travel. It's the opposite of a lake. It's a very tough environment for this. And so we're looking how to model the range at which that can be effective. On the left is doing exactly that. I don't have time to go into the specifics, although I'm doing great on time. Look at that. I want to model how sound travels differently in March when it stratifies itself, when it's that separated water column that I spoke about, and in November when there's a lot of wind, it's very mixed. On the left, you can see that the sound speed profiles on the far left show that there's a layering. There's a difference in how sound travels from top to bottom in March and April. But in November, it is very, very similar from top to bottom. And so we get that beautiful rainbow. We get way more sound traveling all the way to 2,000 meters, 2 kilometers away, rather than half of it being winnowed away in March and April. I want to further this. So instead of just modeling how sound does travel, I want to truth that. And so we have a lot of moorings out on Gray's Reef over the course of a year. And I want to see when they hear each other because they're both talking constantly. We know the fish isn't leaving their instruments. And so they're pinging to each other. When do we hear it? When do we not hear it? A lot of interesting stuff where at night the shrimp are much louder. And so we can't hear nearly as many of our transmissions. Why UGA? We do have a small department feel, which I like. We have our student association, which I'm the president of, the MSGSA, but we also have the huge school feel. We have collaboration with the engineering department, ecology, forestry, biochemistry. I'm able to be part of the wrestling team, which is a club sport that I couldn't do if it was a smaller school. I'm very lucky that on campus I can compete and get my butt kicked by much younger people and talk about back in my day. Research cruise opportunities. We have our Sapelo, we have Skidaway Island, we have the RV Savannah. There's a lot of opportunities to get into the field. We have wetlands if you're into that thing. Living things, gosh. We're national champions twice. I don't really care about football, but it's great to be the best at something. Whatever. Cons, if you like pizza from the Northeast, you won't have any here. They're gonna serve you like a $25 large pie, and they'll be like, "It's great, right?" And you just have to be like, "Yeah, it's wonderful." And the dogs get a little old sometimes, where the entire city shuts down on Saturdays. It's very tough to go anywhere. Just say "Go Dogs" and ride a bike or something. Figure it out. Okay. Thank you for any and all interest. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. See you at Recruitment.